There you go. For those of you coming on to my Apple Podcasts and iTunes and iHeartRadio, I welcome you to Bridges Live. We're going to be talking with Miss Tamara Randolph, and she is the CEO and president of K.E.P.T. And I'm going to wait for all these other live streams to kick on. Probably going to repeat myself, and that's okay, because sometimes I know the iHeart and iTunes and all that stuff pops on a lot more faster than all the other social media stuff. So, we'll be right with you. So thank you guys for being patient, for coming on and visiting with me here. And it looks like YouTube's about ready to come on, and Facebook just went live, and then also, let's see, you also have Periscope and Twitter. So, thank you, Ms. Tamara Randolph, for coming on Bridges Live with Dr. Paul. Welcome. I'm glad we're on, because we tried this before, and it was a complete disaster. So,
thanks for having me.
So, before we just get into everything, I just want to tell people, for all the sponsors and all the people I have who watch and share and stuff, please like and let me know what you think, and have any questions, please ask. And it's really welcoming and warm-hearted when I get to have great communications. Like, I just got off a great conversation with my brothers and friends, black male conversation about where we are in today's society and how we as black men are reacting to it. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things going on that's important in our lives. Everything should be important, and I love what your acronym is for. But I want to let you tell us about you, and then let's get right into K.E.P.T. Please.
Sure. So I am a Baltimore, Maryland native, proudly born and raised in Baltimore. And I grew up in the city, went to the best high school in the world, Baltimore City College High School. Graduated from Temple University with a degree in broadcast journalism. At the age of 10, my mother unfortunately passed away, or was killed actually, due to domestic violence. And I started K.E.P.T. It stands for Keeping Every Possibility Tangible, in love and memory of my mother. And K.E.P.T., we just strive to be a resource and safe haven for women who are going through domestic violence. We want to be a light for them to figure out how to get out of those toxic situations. So we do not only podcasts online when outside was open, we also hosted a K.E.P.T. Closet event. Yearly we did that, and it was a pop-up shop. And what we did, we got donations from the local community, and those guests were able to come and basically shop to their drop. Our first event was honestly one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. It was just an opportunity for women to come and just have a good evening, to feel good about themselves. So if some of them hadn't been out, on an evening where they could just be themselves, and seeing other women uplift and encourage them. So I have a great team around me that helps me put on the event each year, but it's honestly one of the highlights of my life.
So tell me, so many women, my mother included, daughters included, I have 7 daughters, domestic violence entails not just hitting,
correct,
not just, it's emotional,
correct,
and yet, like sex trafficking is one of my staples that I am just, it sickens me, and I one of my champion of causes, we never talk about.
Right. Yeah, I think I found it is, domestic violence does not only affect women. And although my organization is directly devoted to women, when I started doing podcasts, I realized how many men have been affected, and not necessarily that their partners have abused them, but they've witnessed the abuse, specifically for their parents. So they've seen their father physically abuse their mothers, but it's emotional abuse as well. Oftentimes women where people are emotionally abused. They're told that they can't do something, or they are, whatever they're doing is wrong. So they're always made out to be the culprit, although they're just being themselves, but those spouses are making them feel like they're less than nothing. So yeah, although it's a huge stigma around it affecting women and it just being a physical thing, it's emotional abuse. It's controlling, what not, your partner not wanting you to do things, or you need to check in as a 30, 40, 50-year-old woman,
right,
or person. You can't, make your own decisions. You're afraid to go out and afraid to dress the type of way, or afraid to react or converse with the opposite sex because you're not sure of how your partner will react. So there's definitely not only a physical abuse, but a mental, emotional abuse as well. And not only with women, I mentioned that with men, children as well. And that's one of the segments I kind of talked about, because as a child, I witnessed domestic violence with my mother, and it was more of a, this is a grown folk conversation type of thing.
Right, step out, like, you don't need to be here.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that is something that I've carried into my adulthood. There are certain things and situations I was afraid to approach and do because I was afraid that maybe that wasn't something I needed to be part of. And if I'm witnessing it, that's their thing and maybe not so much a part of my business. But I think that what I hope my organization is able to bring is that it's okay for us to stand up and help that friend, that loved one, make a stand for themselves. Sometimes they just need that crutch. They need that push from you to say, like, it's okay. I have someone in my corner. If you need a shoulder to cry on, but you need me to help you get that help, that professional help, to talk to someone to help you through it, then I'm here to do that.
Maybe because we're black people, or black woman, male, whatever. And we do peek into other communities, but man, it just seems like domestic abuse and abuse is so rampant in the black community. And is it just my imagination, or do you think you see that too? Or because it's, abuse is abuse in any relationship. Do more people able to keep it quieter in their community than we are? I mean, like, because sometimes it's just like, here it goes again.
Yeah, I feel like I think kind of the stigma in our community is not to express or not to, say there's something wrong. So I don't have the specific statistics in front of me.
Right.
But I feel pretty confident that for the majority of cases, that if they have a stat on it, that means someone's reported it, it's probably not us people of color. The percentage is probably not, because I don't feel like we are speaking up enough.
True.
But I also feel like in our community, because we're in our community and we're hearing from, and anytime we see a black person, we're paying more attention to it. It probably is so, but I think that, it's a lot. We have to start teaching our men and our children what is acceptable, what is the right way to treat and to talk to women and people in general. Like, I don't accept, even if it's one of my homegirls or any other female, I don't accept them talking to me a certain type of way, because you have to set a standard. And, sometimes people try to cross that line, but I feel like we have to make sure that we're teaching our children not only how to spell and do math, but how to communicate, how to properly have social skills, and how to deal with their peers, how to deal with conflict resolution, and not wanting to fight all the time. But let us talk this out. Let us have a conversation. We don't have to agree on every single thing, but we can converse and talk it through and realize that our differences, it may just be our upbringing. It may not necessarily be a right or wrong, but
right.
Your story and your truth is yours. And sometimes it's okay. that we disagree, but we have to be able to effectively and efficiently communicate about that.
You know, a lot of times when it comes to when it comes to the things I do with mentoring and I know the men, I just got off a great, amazing call with a black male conversation, and we've talked before about us men mentoring men, young boys, and we dropped the ball. I think our generation, being 50 plus, we dropped the ball on mentoring men earlier. Because we were chasing our work, we were chasing our education, we were chasing all this other stuff, and all of a sudden we look behind us, and these young boys, and even people my age, was never taught how to treat a woman, let alone just each other. So there was a lot of miseducation. Because there was no education, there was a lot of miseducation. Now, I'm not, obviously that's such a broad sense, because if you went to you had an amazing father or the friends and whoever, they did teach you and they did show you a better way, a proper way, but not everyone had that education. And how we know is because there's so much abuse going on.
Yes.
Right. That's how do you know? Well, okay, if we did, we wouldn't have so much of this.
Not so much, right.
Right.
I totally agree. Again, I think that if we're not choosing to teach our kids when they're younger how to do those things, it's going to be extremely hard when they come into adulthood or preteens. You got to change that mindset. You got to change. They have to change, and a lot of times once you get up in age, you're like, well, that's it. I am who I am. And that's also not okay. I think we shouldn't be afraid to learn and change and update and grow. But I understand that it is hard, especially if you've never been taught that. And, you're just going off of what you've seen and what you've dealt with your environment. So I think that we have to just make more of a conscious effort. If we're on this side of the story where we haven't or we're not actually the abusers, or we have to make it a point to make sure we're educating and providing outlets. And again, as we know, a lot of people aren't willing to
say something,
or say something. And it's podcasts like this and the work that we're doing individually that makes the point and the difference. I think that there are often times where we may not have a super large audience, but it's that one or two people that are able to affect others. And I feel like that is, for me personally, that's my plan, and that I feel like that's my purpose, to make sure I'm sharing my story, make sure I am not only sharing, but being a good example of what I'm talking about.
So, young women, there is a lot of, there's these twerking things, and the way women are represented or perceived in social media light. It seems to be, is it because we have more visualization on social media, TV, is women to be so degrading? Who's promoting this? There are people who promote it, and there are people who enjoy watching it. But how do we get a woman to just not do it? Like you're better than that, or is it that at all? Is it just what's so different about the type of dance or any dance you do? That's no disrepresentation. That's not a representation of me. You know what I mean? And I shouldn't be viewed because of that. What's the take? Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's hard. I stand on a fine line of a woman should be able to do what she wants to do.
Right.
Right. But I also feel like as a professional woman and a woman who I want you to get to know me and figure out who I am, I don't need to go out and show my body and twerk or do any of that. But I feel like because of social media, it's in your face, and a lot of people are glued to their phones. And so when you wake up, you go on social media, you can see any and everything you want to. And, you know, I think that social media has provided livelihoods for a lot of people. And so if me twerking is that livelihood, then I think that's been more acceptable. That's an acceptable job. And I just think it's kind of hard. Like, I want women to show their worth. You know, they should know and want to show their worth more than the way they dance, how much or how little clothes they're wearing. But I also feel like it's their choice.
Right. You know, I agree with the line, because it's tough, because I know I personally don't look at a woman who is wearing or whatever, how they're carrying, and I don't say that must be what they are. Because right. Me, I'm more of I'm cerebral. So me talking to you is a lot different for me. And like, I'd rather talk to you. Doesn't matter what you have, what you wear, what you look. To me, I'm more cerebral about that. So, but we know or classify men as more visual. So they're visual animals, you know. But see, to me, now I get into the brain science of my thing, and I'm such a brain science guy. That's such a low level thinking. If you're only visual, that's like saying, I see, I hunt, I bring back, me. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we've moved past that, you know?
Right. So why can't the man, like, to your point, like, why do we have to go down and provide that visual, because you can't come up any further? Like, right. You can't have that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't have to stoop down, you know, to that level or to your level. Like, you got to come up. And, you know, it just depends on the different ways of the world we look. But I am a pro-woman, pro-black woman specifically. I want us all to win. And if there's anything I can do to help them, I will surely do that. But I understand the culture now. And, like, if I had kids, my godchildren, I wouldn't want to see their booties on the internet.
Right.
But I know that's really all they see, unfortunately. It's so easy for them to see, rather. It's accessible, you know, kids, everything is online, so kids are watching YouTube. There are creators that are creating, like, kid content, but somehow slipping in something that's some type of innuendo that shouldn't be there, you know. And it's like, let the kids live, let them grow. Let them be kids, and it's really a hard line and a hard thing to do, but it's a different world, definitely, from when I grew up. I didn't have you know, the luxury of, I couldn't eat sugary cereal. Like, I was a Cheerios gal, and if I wanted something like extra, my grandmother would cut up bananas, like, oh, here you go. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, it was very, like, couldn't do a ton, like, had to be on the porch when the street light came on, like, that type of person. So when I, like, stayed out a little bit, I thought I was running the world. But, you know, now it's just different. And I know there are people like my ancestors who are looking down on me like, oh, I couldn't do any of that. You know, like, I have on red lipstick, like, what? You know, like, that type of thing. But I don't know. I feel like it's a time, it's a thing. I think things will change. You know, 10, 20 years from now, we'll probably be talking about something else that's a little crazy.
How can we help you? And when I say we, I mean everything outside of your organization, what you're doing. How can we help K.E.P.T be kept and get? Because really, you want to be. Here's the greatest thing: it's like nurses and doctors. They really want to be put out of business, right? They have a job. They literally would rather not be in the ER, because that means people aren't getting shot. People aren't getting. So your company, your organization is built around, because things has happened.
Right.
So how can So how can we help you and put you out of business? Because that's right.
Yeah, that's a valid question, and I want us to not be afraid to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not be afraid to share your story. When the pandemic first hit and we were kind of at home, one day God just laid it on my heart, like, Tamara, you need to just share your story. And I literally just came on one day, went live, and just talked about me witnessing my mother be stabbed to death. And it was a conversation that I didn't know was going to affect and touch so many people. And of course, you'll get messages like, "Oh, I didn't know, I had no idea." And I didn't know that it was so important for my story to be heard. And I've heard from the feedback how much it touched and changed a person's perspective
Mm-hmm.
and open and willingness to go and get help. And I wish I did have a cure, for people's mentality. But I think if nothing else, if we can make the first step in talking about it, being open, reaching out for help and getting the help and actually following through. Like to this day, I talk to a therapist every Thursday at 3, and it's very beneficial for me because I talked about even still like witnessing my mother's death and how that has shaped and molded my perspective on life, things in the way I treat myself. There are still things that I need to work on, and I know that there are a ton of people that are just silent and aren't talking about it, so they're internally not getting the help that they need. And so if nothing else, if our first step can just be to talk about it, not only our own issues and problems, but maybe it's something that we witness, and it's important that we get out and talk about it and get the help that's necessary. So I would love to be put out of business. And I know a lot of people are not going to talk about that, or not say that, but I would love to, because that means that I've done and I've said and done exactly what God intended and placed on my heart to do.
Do you think, like, if we opened up, like, do you have call-ins? Do people call you up? Is there a hotline that people can, like, or they just call your phone up, or just they keep hitting you up on inbox and social media? Like, how do they contact you if they're like, they want to tell their story, they're looking for help?
Yeah, so K.E.P.T specifically does not have a phone number, but I do get a lot of inboxes. I'm always glued to, and I was talking about being glued to your phone, but it's because I work a lot. But you can always feel free to reach out to me. It's Tamara at SheKept.org if you want to email me. SheKept.com has all of my contact info. And you can always reach out. I want to hear your story. If you want to share your story, we can do a podcast similar to this. If you just want to talk it through, I'm also there. And I do have the National Domestic Hotline, they do have a place where you can call and just get help. So if you want to get help, you can text them. You can chat with them online as well. And that number is 1-800-799-SAFE. And so that's 7233. And again, you can call them, text them, chat with them 24 hours a day. And they're online, and you're able to, even if you're on the website and say you're not in an environment that's safe, they have like an opportunity for you to just one click and it'll change to a random web page. So there are definitely hotlines and locations that are able to service you 24 hours a day. But if you want to connect directly with me, you can go to my site, SheKept.org, and email me, Tamara at SheKept.org as well.
What are some of the signs? Some people would say, like, what do I look for? And for me, being in the field of teaching protection, self-protection, and all those things, I understand what I'm seeing and because I'm working with people and the different domestic violence and things like that. I understand how things don't look right. Just like when there's human trafficking, there's something not right about that picture. There's something not right about how he's holding her, she's not. They're not holding each other. You know what I mean? There are visual signs, but that's my acute awareness of the things I like to do. What are some of those other signs?
I think that you kind of mentioned it, but like acknowledging, like, if you can't basically make decisions on your own, so that physical, emotional, psychological abuse, those are other types of abuse outside of physical that we're not necessarily talking about all the time. But if you have, say you're in a room and you notice that maybe the guy is just extremely jealous for no reason, that is kind of a telltale that something's not right, and kind of preventing or discouraging her from going different places, like going out. She can't go anywhere by herself. She can't really talk or discuss different things. If you're witnessing like verbal insults and stuff, that's just like that is not appropriate for you to, definitely not allowed to be talking to someone like that. Pressuring them to do certain things they don't want to do. Those are kind of just things that kind of come to the top of my mind right now. That's like a trigger, like, maybe something's not right here. And oftentimes I feel like with women, you can kind of tell in their demeanor if they're uncomfortable, if they're just lacking that type of confidence, and you just really feel them closing or clamming up in certain situations, especially if that spouse comes around. I feel like that is a true tale that something's just not right. And it's not I think for us as the friend or family member, it's not a case where we're addressing it right then in front of them, aloud rather, but maybe it's a text, or maybe it's a look, like is everything okay?
Right.
Something we need to talk about, because oftentimes they're not going to have a conversation about their relationship in front of a ton of people. So it's definitely a private matter, and for whatever reason I feel like people are embarrassed to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. We have to get you out of those situations, and there are people here that are willing and want to help.
There's a lot of models, not models as in people, but the modeling of a relationship that's worthy of what's called good relationship, because a lot of people tend to mimic a model that they're familiar with. And that's not healthy either, because you didn't develop your relationship. You are literally mimicking from something you have seen. And I think if you don't know how to cultivate, and that has a lot to do with self, right? How do you cultivate yourself? Because so many people have told you what you ought to be, what you need to be. Social systems are telling you how you should be like, right? And so we, as growing humans, we've never been taught how to cultivate oneself to be. So even in relationships, it's all a mimic. And I think people, if they sit back and like, does this relationship you are having, you are in, you want to be in, does it mimic anything? Because if it is, that means you didn't develop this relationship.
Right. Yeah, I think that's easily a popular thing. Like you said, like we're in a relationship and we're doing things that we've seen done, and we're like, oh, okay, maybe this worked, but obviously we don't know. We're just looking at what's on the surface. We don't know everything that's underneath that helped them get to said place. And is this a show? Is this a front? Because when they get behind closed doors, what exactly is happening? And that's hard. And to kind of go back to our point earlier about social media and the access, we can easily see people that are extremely happy in relationships. The pictures in the little 10-15-second video show us so, but that's not quite reality. And it's important for us to be realistic, not only about our relationships, but the expectations of our partners and ourselves. I think that we sometimes give our partners more grace than we do ourselves. And that goes for not only in relationships or romantic relationships, but friendships as well. And it's very important, something that I'm personally learning, that it's important to give myself grace. Perfection is not something that God blessed any of us with. And it's okay to make mistakes, but we have to be realistic with ourselves. And that's really the only way we're able to effectively and efficiently cultivate a new relationship. And just trying to mimic something we've seen isn't true. It's a lot of acting going on. And without us actually cultivating or creating that relationship ourselves and learning not only about ourselves first, but learning what our partners like and who they are and how they communicate and stuff like that. That part is important, and I don't think that we do enough of that on a daily basis.
Now, you had said, when you had said the word jealousy, I have written papers about, I don't agree with the word jealousy because I think it's so archaic to be jealous. Because to me, jealous then is like, it's so, what's behind jealousy? Is it insecurity? Is it expectations? There are all these negatives. So if you find yourself jealous, that is a bell ringer to be like, you probably should talk to someone because there's a lot of things to unpack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Jealousy is just that. I think it's like an umbrella, and all of these different things pop out, once you push that umbrella up. It's a jealousy umbrella, but underneath you have insecurity, you have abandonment issues, you have all of these different things. And, I totally agree. Like, jealousy isn't just one. I mean, it's, just a few letters, but that really entails a lot of different things. And why are you jealous? It's because of, it could be because of, different things.
Right.
And
dot, right?
Exactly.
So then how come jealousy was looked at, and it has been said, and you've heard it, that means I care about you, right? And if the person's not jealous, it means they just don't care what you do. I'm like, I just don't understand. That definition doesn't apply. It doesn't make sense,
Right. Yeah, I don't know why, it's everyone's different interpretation. And I feel like if you find this word jealousy and, you're going to describe it or give its definition that benefits you, And
right.
so if I convey that being jealous means that I love you and I only want you type of thing, then that's the thing, I'm going to point out there. And I'm going to highlight how good jealous is. No, thank you. I don't want that. You can appreciate me. You can love on me. You can say my woman is the bomb. Okay, give me all of that, but that jealous part, no thank you.
No thank you. I love it. I'm going to ask you on the air, public, would you want to have a conversation this domestic and abuse that we're having?
Yeah, I would love to, and I would love to. I would also love if it's an opportunity for any of the viewers to kind of come and ask questions.
Right. Let's set that.
I would love that.
Yeah, let's set that where they can. This way they can do it anonymity. We can give them the number. They can call in, and let's do that because you're right. I think people having a place where they can tell their story. Or to hear someone says, "Hey, I got you." You know what I mean? And I think that's.
I think that's what we need. We just need that encouragement. I think that people being able to kind of either call in or type in, and some people, want that, want to be anonymous and they want to voice it, but they don't necessarily feel comfortable right now showing their face or giving their name.
Right.
I think that is totally okay, and I think that that's one of the blessings with the platform that we have is that we can do that. But I think it's important that we share our story and we get out. So I am fully down. Let's do it. I love it. I'm going to pray us out, and just want to say thank you, Tamara, for doing what you do and what God's put on you to do, right? And because it's important. Everything we do in life is important when we're helping humanity and helping ourselves. It's absolutely true. So anything else you want to let us know before we take out of here? K.E.P.T.org, sorry. K.E.P.T.org, yep. And on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, you can follow us, see some things we've done in the past, what we're doing in the future, and now I need to add our podcast here on our calendar, so I can't wait. Thank you
That'd
so
be
much.
great. Absolutely. So let's bow our heads, everyone who is listening, and even when you hear and share this, please, everyone, thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for bringing us together and letting our hearts and our minds and our passion reach out and touch our community and the people that are hurting and who don't have a voice. Let them know that we can keep them safe. We are here for you. We are here to be your hearts and minds, and to let them know that they are not alone. In Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, and Tamara, I'll call you right after this, but I'm gonna let everybody else go, and then we'll talk later. Thanks everyone for listening to Bridges Live with Dr. Paul. Thank you. Mm-hmm.